Does it work? Yeah, next week.
Like in the middle of the work, I'm getting all this.
No, I'm taking the red eye. Motzei to Shabbat. Fun stuff.
Tuesday night or Wednesday?
Where are you off to?
Tuesday night, New York. New York. All right, Rabotai. I sent you the thing. I did. Okay, Rabotai, you ready? There's a pasuk in Devarim. There's a pasuk in Devarim that I want to read. We'll start with the pasuk. Here it is. Very bad print. Devarim 12:21. David, tell me if you know this pasuk from your Kidiyah, okay? You finish the pasuk. I'm going to start it. You finish it. It's in Pirashat Re'eh. It says in the pasuk here. Hold on. Okay, ready? Tell me, just guys, listen to this pasuk. Tell me, this is Bible study. Tell me what the pasuk means, just on a basic level. Pirashat Re'eh. Ki yarchib Hashem Elokecha et yirvulecha ka'asher diber lach. When Hashem increases your borders, your boundaries, like He told you will, bless you. Which means when you get to inherit Israel. Oh, by the way, shiur is sponsored by Adam Cohen in memory of his grandmother. Hursi Bat Miriam. Also, we have another. The Levim wanted to do a shiur Monday, but it didn't end up happening. So, honorable mention to the Levim also in memory of your grandfather, right, boys? Ready? When Hashem increases your boundaries, your borders, like He told you He would, which means when you get Israel, finish the pasuk, David. You know it? Yes? Very close. Yarhib Adonai Elohecha et yirvulecha ka'asher diber lach והמתה אוכלה בשר כי תאווה נפשך לאכול בשר בכל אהבת נפשך תאכל בשר. What does this mean? Let's translate this. והמתה אוכלה בשר. And you will say, I want to eat meat. כי תאווה נפשך לאכול בשר. Because you desire meat. That's what the pasuk says. So what should you do? בכל אהבת נפשך תאכל בשר. Eat to your heart's content. Hashem saying, go ahead, eat. Now, next pasuk. Ki means what? Yeah, but Hashem is saying it's mutar. When you go to Israel, eat. Yeah. Next pasuk. Ki. Ki irhak mimecha makom. Ki is what? Ki is because. Ki is a siba, right? Ki because. Irhak. Sorry, Mrs. Dwight. Okay, yeah. So key is the reason. In other words, it almost seems like, you know why you should eat. Eat to your heart's content. Pasad. You know why? What does this mean? Because the Bet HaMikdash. It's going to be far from you. So what is that key? It almost seems like the Bet HaMikdash is going to be far from you. So just eat in your house. It's almost what it seems like.
Key comes in 3 variations.
Key can be when, it can be if, it can be because, right? So how would you say? So Hashem is saying, when you go to Israel, eat. Why? Because you're going to be far from the place. Because you're going to be far from the place. What does that have to do with anything? And if you look at Rashi in this pasuk, Rashi says, it says, I'm not going to give away the first Rashi, wait for the gemara. The second, because the place is going to be so far, the Bet HaMikdash, Rashi says, is going to be too far for you to go to. It's going to be a pain in the neck. Now in the desert, the Mishkan follows us everywhere we go. But in the Eretz Israel, you're going to be here, you're going to be in Sifat, you're going to be in Tiberia, you're going to be all over the place. So let's see. That's the premise. So keep this pasuk in mind. Okay? Now let's see the Gemara, first page. First page on the bottom. Let's I don't know, 15 lines from the bottom. There's a 2 dots. Hakol Shohatin is how it starts. Let's see. Watch this. That's true, but not this. This is not this topic. Hakol Shohatin. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13 lines from the bottom. Hakol Shohatin. You see that? Everything is slaughtered. Hakol b'shechita, which means everything has to get slaughtered. Every type of animal, except for fish. La'afilu off. Even a bird has to be slaughtered with a shechita. Next part. Le'olam shohati. The Mishnah says, it's based in the Mishnah that we have in Hulin. The Mishnah says, Le'olam shohati, which means forever we slaughter. What does this mean, forever we do shechita? Mantana. Who is this Tana that holds we do shechita forever? Which means shechita is the rule always. No matter when you live, always have to do shechita. Who would hold this? Says the Gemara, Amar Rabba, Rabbi Ishmael. This is Rabbi Ishmael. What does that mean? Because we learned. It says in the pasuk we just read, when Hashem increases your boundaries, finish the pasuk. It says it 3 times, right, David? You're going to say, I want to eat meat. And the rest of the pasuk. Rabbi Ishmael Ahmed, what is the point of this pasuk? It's a special mitzvah in the Torah. When you go into Israel, I let you eat basar ta'ava, meat just because you want it, on a Tuesday night. In the desert, Rabbi Ishmael holds, it was asur to eat meat on a Tuesday night. Only korbanot. Some meat on a Wednesday night, on a Tuesday night. I want to meat. No, you cannot have burger. Only shilamim korban. You want to have meat? Okay, go to the Mishkan. This is the pasuk says. What is the pasuk saying? When you go to Israel, you're gonna have ta'ava. Your ta'ava is allowed. Burger bar. In the desert. Very good. Well, exactly. In the desert, Rabbi Ishmael holds. You can't just say, "I want a burger." What about God? Where's God's burger? So you got to bring korban shilamim in the Mishkan, and then you get your parts, and you can eat a burger.
You're allowed to bring korban.
You can bring korban shilamim whatever you want.
How is it? In the desert we eat man for all those years. What is it? I mean, I don't remember. Did we bring a lot of korbanot?
I don't know. It doesn't really say in the Torah so much that we brought lots of korbanot.
We only get man.
Yeah, we had man. It does seem that there were korbanot. It's a whole question I read once. Rabbi Miller talks about this. I mean, it says Moshe brought korbanot on the bottom of Har Sinai. It's a good question. But anyway, this is. Have you ever heard this before? Rabbi Ishmael holds in the desert, basar ta'ava was asur. What does that? So why in Israel is it allowed, Yossi? You hit the nail on the head. In Israel, it's too far. I got to go all the way to Yerushalayim in the traffic because I want a burger tonight for dinner. So he says, in the beginning, basar ta'ava was asur. When they went to Israel, who tell him basar ta'ava? Basar ta'ava is I want meat because I'm hungry and I don't want to give anything to Hashem right now. No donation, no korban. Hold on. Today's coming now. First, we're talking about when they went to the audits, right? So in the midbar it was asur. In the audits it was mutar. Hold on, it's got a link in somehow. And now shigalu, where we were lost the Beit HaMikdash. I would say, you know what? The heter for burgers bar is now removed because you're not in Israel anymore. The pasuk specifically says when you're in Israel, you can have basar ta'ava. If you lose Israel, you lose the basar ta'ava. Sorry, no more burgers. That's what I would think. That's why it says special on the Mishnah. Le'olam shuhatin, we can always slaughter. It's a chidush to teach you, according to Rabbi Ishmael, even after galut, you can still have basar ta'ava. Okay? So just to summarize,
What is the first issue?
the isur was to have ta'ava, basar ta'ava. So here I'm going to summarize. There's a Mishnah that says, Ezra, you listening? There's a Mishnah that says, le'olam shuhatin. We slaughter forever. What does this mean, we slaughter forever? The answer is, Rabbi Ishmael is trying to tell you, it was really asur in the desert to have basar ta'ava, stam meat, without a korban. There was a special pasuk that says, when you go into Israel, eat as much as you want. Only in Israel. But I would think once we lost Israel, you should not eat meat anymore, ever again, until the Israel comes back. The answer is no. The Mishnah says, le'olam shuhati. Once it's allowed forever. And this is the Hidush of the Mishnah. This is the first translation of the Mishnah. Should we take a food break? Basar ta'ava? Halab ta'ava? Let's take a break for 1 second and get some food. Bring it to the table and we'll continue. Nahash? It's halakha Moshe Sinai. So, very good question. We're going to talk about that tonight. Here's his question, your dad's question.
Yeah, before that, they had everything. They didn't mix the meat and milk.
The question is, what they do for shechita? Do they have lots of? We have to talk about that. We're going to talk about that now. You guys are not hungry? You don't want to make a? Yes, you want to? Guys, make a plate. Bring it back. Yellow. Boys, go get a plate. Yellow. Come on, hurry up. Mrs. Dweck, I apologize again. I'm sorry. My fault. No, it follows Arbi. It's following Arbi. So I have to remember to tell you this man. Sorry.
I'm so sorry.
No, it's my fault.
Appreciate the food even
You're
more.
a gem, Mrs.
How was
Dweck.
the earthquake yesterday? Oh no. It was an earthquake in Vegas.
I felt it over here. Yeah.
We were driving, so we didn't.
I was learning this gemara at the table.
Oh, yeah.
So is that me or is that the gemara? שמעת מה? You got it, David? No? Okay, listen. This is Kusa. Yeah, I'll take it. The Mishnah has a Hidush. I didn't print the Mishnah is on the previous page. It says, we always do shechita. What's the? Of course we do shechita. What's the Hidush? Rabbi Yishmael is saying, no, I'll tell you why it's a Hidush. Really, in the Midbar, Basar Ta'ava was asur. You cannot eat Basar Ta'ava. Only Korban Shilamim, and when you do Shilamim, you can eat a piece of the Shilamim. Korban, how could you eat the food? Give it to God. Olah, Korban Olah is all burnt completely to Hashem. 1 second. Korban Shilamim, part goes to the Ba'alim. So you get to eat also Korban Shilamim. So in the Midbar, the Mishkan is right here. So go make Korban Shilamim, give the halabim and all the things to HaKadosh Baruch Hu, and you eat your meat. But stop to shech your meat and sit down without giving something to Hashem. But stop. But Hashem only wants korbanot. Hashem doesn't take korban from fish. But it's a good question. We're going to talk about this in a second. What about everything else? Good question. But at least for the basar, in other words, and I'm going to speak kaviyachol. Obviously, Hashem doesn't eat. Very good. Good question. You're going to say, HaKadosh Baruch Hu says, when you can bring me a cow, you can bring me a sheep, you can bring me a goat. How could you sit down and eat it when you know Hashem, He desires, so to speak, this korban, whatever that means. Okay, so this is Rabbi Ishmael. So the Hidush is that even though we lost Eretz Yisrael, Basar Ta'ava is still allowed. Yes, Joey. Good question. They all ask this question. Let's go forward. We'll address it a little bit. Now, the next question is this. Matkif la Rav Yosef. We are now 5 lines from the bottom. Matkif la Rav Yosef. Rav Yosef doesn't agree that this Mishnah is according to Rabbi Ishmael. Hay le'olam shuhatin. The Mishnah says we are always slaughtering. Le'olam shuhatin ve'ochlin mi bayele. If this whole pshat that we just said, it's Rabbi Ishmael teaching you that you're allowed to eat, then the Mishnah should have said you're allowed to eat. It doesn't say we always eat. It says we always slaughter. Sounds like it's a halakha, but shechita is coming to teach you. Not a halakha that you're allowed to eat meat. There's nothing to do with this Mishnah. So therefore he says, they're odd. And furthermore, says Rabbi Yosef, Mikara ma'itama itzad. From the beginning, I thought someone was going to ask this question. Yossi, I was looking at you to ask this question.
What was the question again?
The question, we're asking a question, right? The first question on Abiyah says, the first one we just asked is, the Mishnah says, le'olam shuhatin. We always slaughter. Mashma, there's a hidush about shechita there. You would have thought you shouldn't do shechita. It's something to do with achila. It doesn't say le'olam shuhatin be'ochlin.
Yes, but it's obvious, no?
I mean, it's something to do with shechita. So he has a better pshat. But he has a second question, which I thought you would ask, Yossi. He says, Rod, what was your hava amina? Now that you left Israel, you should never be allowed to eat. What kind of question is that? What kind of statement is that? You would have thought that. Rod, Rabbi Ishmael, you hold basar tava was not allowed to eat in the midbar. Only shilamim. Why? Mishun davu mikadem the mishkan, because they were so close to the mishkan. So what are you being a bum, lazy bum? Go to the mishkan, make shilamim. It's right next door. And then when they got to Israel, why was it allowed? Basar tava. Because the mishkan is so far away. No, it's the opposite. In the mishkan, it was very close. In the midbar, in Israel, you could be all the way to the north. Mishkan. No, we had a lot of Bamot also. Good question. The Zafar brings up Bamot. Hold on. In Israel, the Beit HaMikdash is so far. And so Hashem says, come on, I'm not going to make you, every time you want to have a burger, you have to go to Yerushalayim. It's crazy. So therefore, I'm going to do away with this rule. And therefore, Basar Tava is allowed. And so the question is, so for sure, now that we lost the Beit HaMikdash completely, we should be able to eat meat. Because there is no Beit HaMikdash. You only said it's allowed because I don't want to make you go all the way to the Beit HaMikdash. And now there is no Beit HaMikdash, so I can never eat meat. Kol shekena should be allowed to eat meat now. What's even the question? I don't need you to tell me this hidush. It's obvious that you can eat meat, B'zman hazeh. If Hashem said you can eat meat when you go to Israel, because the Beit HaMikdash is a 3-hour drive, now that the Beit HaMikdash is a 3,000-year drive, for sure you can eat meat.
You can't eat meat.
No, because Hashem says when you go to Israel, you could eat meat. Why? Why did Hashem say that? When you go to Israel, you can eat basar ta'ava. No. But Hashem says in the pasuk, when you go to Israel and you build the Beit HaMikdash, you can eat basar ta'ava. Why? Why can I eat it in the pasuk? Why can I eat basar ta'ava? Because the place that the Beit HaMikdash is so far from you. And I don't want to make you guys suffer every time you're hungry. And so I'm not going to, the deal we have now in the desert, that you have to bring shilamim, it's off when you go to Israel. Because it's too far to travel. Okay? And so now when there's no Beit HaMikdash, it's even further to find the Beit HaMikdash. You for sure Hashem should say, eat. I don't want to bother you and take away your dinner from you. That's it. So it can't be what we were just saying. It has to be like another pshat, which he's going to say right now. But it's worthy to note that's Rabbi Ishmael's shita. That's what he holds. Mamash. That's what he holds. Rabbi Ishmael. That basar ta'ava was asur the midbar. Ela Amar Rabbi Yosef. Next page on the top. Rabbi Akibahi. It's really like Rabbi Akiba. What does Rabbi Akiba hold? Titania. Yirhak b'micha makom asher Hashem elokecha asher yibchar Hashem chakasu b'shemo sham v'zavachta mibikarecha u'mitzonecha. This pasuk we just read. If the Beit HaMikdash is going to be so far from you, go ahead and slaughter your zebachim and eat b'chol avad nafshecha. Rabbi Akiva omer, for kol sheken if you don't have it. Rabbi Akiva omer, lo ba'akatuf ela le'esor lahen basar nehira. What is the pasuk? What is the hidush? Not that meat was asur before. Rabbi Akiva says meat was allowed in the desert. Basar ta'ava was allowed. He argues. Basar ta'ava was allowed. So what's this pasuk telling me? When you go to Israel, huh? Nehira is lashon nostrils, which means shebetechila hutal lahen basar nehira. In the desert, they didn't have to do shechita. In the desert, they could take the nostrils and slice down vertically. They can they can stick in the nostrils and pull out the lungs and kill an animal this way. Nehira means you don't have to do shechita. So Rabbi Akiva holds in the desert, there was no shechita, only for korbanot. You like this one better? Rabbi Akiva says, basar nehira was allowed. Nehira is nostrils. Now when you go to Israel, Hashem's saying, no more barbarians.
Why would that make any sense? They got the law. They should follow the law.
Because the law is given in Devarim. The Moshe Rabbeinu, on the day of his dying, he's given his law. The law wasn't given to us 40 years ago. This pasuk.
I know, but
the law Shita. Good, the gemara will talk about this. Very good. So you got it. So we have mahloket. Just to summarize, Rabbi Ishmael holds in the desert there was not basar ta'ava was not allowed, even with shechita. You need to bring korban, and then you can eat part of the shalom. When you go to Israel, Hashem says basar ta'ava is officially allowed. Rabbi Akiva says, what are you talking about? Not only was basar ta'ava allowed, you didn't have to do shechita even. Rip it down the nostrils if you want. There was no shechita in the desert. Rabbi Akiva holds. What the pasuk? When you go to Israel, it's talking about when you go to Israel, you have to use shechita now. You have to elevate yourself in the land. I only let you do that in the desert. When you go to the land of Israel, you have to have shechita. The way that I do my korbanot, Israel, we pick up our game. We do it on a more high level. The way that you do korban is the way that you eat your food. Shechita for korban, shechita for eating. That should be akiva. And now that we lost the Beit HaMikdash and we lost Israel, I would think, okay, we lost Israel. No more shechita. I go back to slicing it this way, pulling the nostril. Kamash Malan the Mishnah, Ne'olam Shuhatim. We always have to do shechita. Once you have the mitzvah of shechita, you don't lose shechita. David, you got the Mishnah according to Rabbi Akiva? Rabbi Akiva says, you nehira was allowed. When you went into Israel, nehira was asut, and you must have shechita. When we lost Israel, we would think, okay, back to doing whatever we want. Hashem says, no. Le'olam shuhatim. Once you have the mitzvah of shechita, you always have to have the shechita. You cannot eat food by pulling down the nostrils and all that stuff. This is a mahloket, Rabbi Ishmael and Rabbi Akiva. What does it have to do with the 9 days? No, that's only for korbanot. But for ochel, it could be anyone. Okay. We're gonna get a halakha about the 9 days. For hulin, anyone. For hulin means for basar ta'ava, anyone. You want to eat a burger? Even according to the Rabbi Ishmael, yeah, you're right. According to Rabbi Ishmael, it had to be a korban. So it was the Kohanim that did it, because it had to be a korban shlamim. According to Rabbi Akiva, there was no shechita in the mikvah, so anyone could just slice it down. So far, so good. Let's go forward in the Gemara. What is Rabbi Ishmael and Rabbi Akiva? What are they really arguing about? Like we said, Rabbi Akiva holds basar ta'ava lo itzel kalam. Basar ta'ava was never forbidden. You could always eat in the desert burgers if you want. Rabbi Ishmael holds basar nehira lo ishtari kalam. No, you can't eat meat that doesn't have proper shechita, like you, Rabbi Akiva, barbarian way. Rabbi Ishmael holds no, you always have to do shechita. Now we have a few questions. Rabbi Ishmael, I understand Rabbi Ishmael. Question on Rabbi Akiva. I understand Rabbi Ishmael. I know the Chtiv. It says in the pasuk, "V'shahat et ben abakar." You slaughtered ben abakar. So we see there was shechita in the desert, like you said. I think there was shechita in the desert. According to you, Rabbi Akiva, what is the pasuk telling you? Shechita. What's shechita? You hold nihud is allowed. Ela, Rabbi Akiva, my v'shahat. What was the Rabbi Akiva saying? Why does it say shechita in the pasuk? Because that's shani. Rabbi Akiva holds, no, I agree there was shechita only for korbanot, but for ochel, for holin, for basat ha'ava, nechira. Yeah. Yes, they had the halakha. Yeah. Yes, it's for all from Yaakov Avinu. Ben Noah. Gidan Hashem never allowed. The Gemara has another question. And at the end of this, we're going to get something about the 9 days. Bishlim al Rabbi Ishmael. I understand Rabbi Ishmael. I know dichtiv. Hason ubakar. Okay, 1,000 bonus points. What is this pasuk? Hason ubakar. First of all, 100 bonus points if you could pronounce it correctly without looking on the side. You're a reader. Yeah. Go ahead. Go ahead, David. Hason ubakar. Yishahet lahem. Who said this? Who said this pasuk? What is this pasuk? Yariv. Who says the pasuk? Hason ubakar. It's a question. This pasuk. Hason ubakar yishahet lahem. It's called the Ge'ayam. Yasif them. You're gonna give them all the fish.
Oh, that's
Moshe Rabbeinu is saying to Hashem, "You're gonna give them slav? They want meat. Hashem, they want meat. Right, Yossi? When the people cried for meat in the desert, Hashem says, "Tell the people, I'll give them meat." Moshe Rabbeinu says, "Hatzonu bakar yishahet lahem. Imid kol the Ge'ayam yasif lahem." Well, you have enough meat for everybody. Hason bakar yishahet lahem. Yishahet, slaughtering. That's not a korban. That's not for korban. That's for food. That's for basar ta'ava. Literally basar ta'ava. Because they were hungry. It's a great question. Against Rabbi Akiva. Hason bakar yishahet lahem. Ela Rabbi Akiva, my hason bakar yishahet lahem. Yinahel lahem ibayele. It should have said in the pasuk, hason bakar yinahel lahem. Nehira lahen, nehira shalahen zoe shahitatan. Nehira is the shahita. The word shahita had different meanings over time, says Rabbi Akiva. In the desert, they called shechita. I'm going to shecht it. That's shechting.
What does that mean?
They slice it. Rashi says,
they slice it down the middle.
Yeah, they slice it down the middle, vertically instead of horizontal. Yeah. I'm going like this, or whatever.
Okay.
Rashi says two pshatim. It's very hard to read the Rashi.
Wait, if anything, Rabbi Akiva makes more sense.
Oh no, come on, no, yeah.
Because he said that you only eat it when you give Hashem first.
No, that's Bishmael. Now, we have a question. According to Rabbi Ishmael, I understand. This is the last question we have against Rabbi Akiva. I know the Tanan. There's a Mishnah that says, "Hashohet v'nebela biyado." If someone is slaughtering, you ready? Someone is slaughtering an animal. Rabbi Isai. Someone is slaughtering an animal, and in the middle it becomes pasul. It's no good. V'hanoher, or if someone's doing nechira, which is pasul, kosher or pasul, according to both these days. Nechira is kosher or pasul? Asur according to everybody these days. They are me'aker, or someone rips out like patud milichasot. You don't have to do kisui hadam. Yeah. Okay, David, you got this? It's a little Lazani. It seems a little Lazani. It does. Hold on 1 second. There's a Mishnah. What a shame. There's a Mishnah that says, the Mishnah says what? If you're slaughtering an animal and it becomes pasul, in the middle of the slaughtering, it becomes pasul. Can't eat it anymore. Or you do nehira, which is not allowed. Or you just rip out the air pipe. You don't have to do kisui adam. Don't even bother covering the blood. Kisui adam is usually required when you have to cover the blood when you slaughter. It's pasul. No one can eat it. The whole halakha of kisui adam falls apart. Don't worry about covering the blood. Rabbi Akiva, according to Rabbi Akiva, Amad patur b'nechasot. Why are you patur from covering it? You hold nechira as kosher. It says in the Mishnah, if you did nechira, It's not kosher. And he says, oil be itzad. Now, once it became asur, now it's asur forever. Now, we have one question on Rabbi Ishmael. Now, I understand that Rabbi Akiva, the Amar basar ta'ava lo yitzir klal, because he holds basar ta'ava was never forbidden. You could always eat basar ta'ava. I know dichtiv. Ach kasher yachel et hatzabi ve'et ha'ayal ken to'chelino. Kasher yochal, I think. Et hatzabi ve'et ha'ayal ken to'chelino. It says, just like you eat the sevi, the deer, and the ayal, so too you can eat the meat. What's the question? Some of you asked this question before. Rabbi Ishmael, Hashem said you can eat meat just like you eat a deer. Can a deer be a korban? A deer can't be a korban. So how could you eat a deer? Rabbi Ishmael, this is like a checkmate question. You can't, but it can't be a korban. That's for kashrut. There's no korban. So Hashem saying, eat the meat just like, yeah, so it must be basar ta'ava they ate. It's a great question. Who can eat after they eat a deer? And so he answers, no. When the Hashem only made prohibited something that he can have, a korban. Something that can never be a korban, Hashem said, eat. That's what Ishmael answered. Okay. Now that you understand, yeah, there's always answers. Now that you understand this mahloket, Rabbi Akiva and Rabbi Ishmael, the Gemara is about to ask a question, and this is the main question of the night. So even if you didn't understand everything we said until now, it's okay. We get on board right now. We have a question. Rabbi Yirmiyah asked a question. Second white line. Ibare basad nechira, according to Rabbi Akiva, who hold nechira was allowed, chopping vertically. Ibare basad nechira, sheichnisu Yisrael imahen la'aretz, mahu. If I was in the desert and I had a freezer full of nechira, or I salted it and made jerky of nechira meat, because nechira meat was allowed. And then all of a sudden, when I go to Israel, you can't do nechira anymore. But I got pounds of the stuff. Can I eat it still, or do I have to throw it in the garbage? You think it's fine to eat?
Yeah.
Yes.
Because when you did it, it wasn't that nechira was okay. When you did it,
but it says the Akiva holds it was okay.
But it doesn't make sense.
But I already did it.
Because you're training them to be Jews in the desert.
And yeah, but the Akiva holds halakha. He holds nechira was allowed. So according to the Akiva, I already did it. So the Gemara says, hold on, Emat, when are you talking about exactly? You're talking about the 7 years it took for them to beat the wars. It took 7 years to fight the wars to Israel. Even completely not kosher food was allowed. I talked about this on the Sunday class, I think, if you remember.
Yeah, you did.
Even completely not kosher food was allowed for them to eat as they conquered the land of Israel. Tichtiv, as it says, ubatim mele'im kol tuv. When you go into Israel, you're going to see houses full of all good food. Whose food? The goyim's food. And you can eat it. The Amar Rabbi Yirmiyah says, Amarav in the name of Rab, Katle da Hazireh. I said this on Sunday, right? Katle da Hazireh. Bacon, pig, that you find in the houses of the Amoraim. When you're conquering Israel, eat it. There was no laws of kashrut for the soldiers. Talking about soldiers, right? The soldiers get whatever they need. When the soldiers, the women also, exactly. When they were conquering Israel, there was no laws of kashrut. They could eat pig even. And Rambam holds us halakha l'maaseh, he writes, when the Israeli soldiers are going to war, just like there's a woman that drives them nuts, he's allowed to take her. So too, they can eat pig and any not kosher, unless if you don't have kosher food, eat whatever you find. You're fighting a war. So basar nechira mebaya. So if you could eat pig, you think you can't eat the nechira meat that you salted yesterday? Man, it's really hard to focus. It's really hard. If you could eat meat, if you could eat pig, you then for sure you can eat pasad nehira. That was it seems like all the people as you're going in. Rambam uses the word soldiers, but the Gemara doesn't. It seems as you're going into Israel, while you're getting settled into these houses, you could eat the food. If I could eat the not kosher food, for sure I could eat the food from my freezer from the desert. So the Gemara says, no, this is a weird answer. No, I'm talking about after the 7 years of conquer. So my question is, how long does the meat last?
Right.
Says, you saw how long does beef jerky last? But anyway, the Gemara wants to know.
What does it mean after?
After the 7 years, I still have some basad nahira, beef jerky. I want to know if it's allowed.
So would it be allowed during the 7 years you bake in the house?
So Rashi writes on this. You're listening, guys. Rashi writes on this. This is not a practical question. Rashi writes, it's cut off in this sheet. Rashi says this is not a practical question. Ela derosh bekabel star. It's just a question. Learn Torah. It's never going to happen. It never happened. No one has meat for 7 years. Gemara says teku. Gemara answers teku. We don't know. Teku means we have no idea what the answer is. Tishbi teretz kushut lahavayot. Eliyahu Navi will come and he'll tell us what the halacha would have been way back when if you had some beef jerky. All right, guys. What does it have to do with the next? What does it got to do with the 9 days?
During the 9 days, we couldn't have it.
Where am I going with this? So first, let's read it on Rambam. It's right. I feel like everyone's in a million different.
No, we're with you.
Let's read the Rambam. Yaniv, Yonatan, Rambam in the bottom of page 2. Keshayu Yisrael b'midbar, when the Jews were in the desert, this halakha. When the Jews were in the desert, lo nistavu b'shechita tachonin. There was no halakha of shechita. Oh, who does he hold like? Rabbi Akiva. Rambam holds like Rabbi Akiva. There was no shechita. Ela yunoharin. The natural thing. Nihira was allowed. Or shechatin, or shechita. They ate food like any of the goyim ate food. Unbelievable. The Dora Midbar. Rambam holds like Rabbi Akiva. There was no shechita in the desert. But if you want to make a korban, make it a shelamim. Almost a little bit like Rabbi Yishmael. You want to rip it apart? Rip it apart. The Rambam holds there was no shechita in the desert. So halakha does follow Rabbi Akiva. So the question is, if there was leftover, if there was leftover, pot. It was, Yosef was not a problem of kosher. Yosef was a problem of vayakutu mipnei Israel. He said, they won't eat with me. Yosef said, the Egyptians won't eat with me. Not I won't eat with them. In fact, like she says, all the food was kosher. His son was the head chef. They won't eat with us. Rambam over here is saying, we ate like the goyim. Matano, not meat and milk. But there was no shechita. Now,
It's 4 years of the man.
It's crazy. The Dor De'ah is the greatest generation ever in the desert learning. Now, there's a Rosh here that I put on the next page on 3. The Rosh says, they had some nehira meat, let's say beef jerky, from way back when, and they brought it into Israel. Someone wants to eat it. What's the question? It was not slaughtered. It says the Gemara says teku. We don't know the answer. She says, just learn it and get reward for learning because there's no practical difference. We have to know the truth. Even though that time way passed. So there's no one that's going to come now with beef jerky from 3,000 years ago saying this is basad from the desert. This is not practical. So Rashi says it's not an actual question. Rosh says, Lo nehirali. I don't agree with you, Rashi. The dafka the mizbar k'ra'id dashinan afa pishikvar kavad every question in the Gemara is actually a halakha. There must be a halakha, otherwise they wouldn't waste their time. There's no such thing as a question in the Shas in the Gemara that doesn't have a practical application. So maybe there's no more basar nechira, but there's something like this these days where the answer to that question will answer this question. Says the Rosh, I'm skipping a little bit. Inami, on 3 lines from the bottom of the Rosh. Inami, kegon shiratsu betin, Nid'eli, go up 3 more lines. Nid'eli, the nafkamina berayazu, Rosh says, I have a hidush. You know what's a practical halakhic application? Le'adam she'asar atzmo be'ahad min aminin. Someone who said, I will not drink Snapple, for example. He made a neder. I will never drink Snapple. Mizman yadua, starting Tuesday. And then on Tuesday he says, but I have my leftover Snapple from Monday. It's not new Snapple. I was drinking this already the whole week. Am I allowed to drink it? Says the Rosh, whatever the answer to the basar nechira question is, will be the same answer to this question. If he, let's say Adam makes a neder, starting Thursday, he will not drink Snapple. But he already started it today. And so maybe you can say, this Snapple I started in Heter, even though now I'm not allowed to have it, since I started it yesterday, it should be allowed. It's the same question as a basar nechira. That's a whole other thing. Teku, we don't know. Oh, the Rosh is saying it's the same question, which means it has the same answer. Teku. Now, listen to this, guys. And we're going to zoom to the halakha l'maaseh. I know. The Rif, I wrote the Rif. The Rif holds, we have a halakha. Safek deoraita lechumra. Safek derabanan lekula. What's Safek teku? What's the halakha with the teku? Is teku lechumra? Is teku lekula? Does it follow the same rule? Is it called the Safek? The Rif holds Safek teku deoraita lechumra. Teku derabanan lekula. Same thing as a Safek. It's a teku. You don't know. The Sefer Yerushalayim says teku is lechumra always. Teku, we don't know. It's not a Safek. It means the Gemara never answered the question. Lechumra. The Rosh, the Yerushalayim, Sefer Yerushalayim. The Rambam in Sheot Tshuvot writes like the Rif. Teku derabanan lekula. If you have a rabbinic question and it's a teku, go easy. What does that do with anything? The Chidah says as follows. Says the Chidah. On the 9 days, we are not allowed to eat meat. We don't eat meat in the 9 days. If I have leftover meat from before the 9 days, am I allowed to have leftovers on the 9 days meat? Yes. What's the source? Says the Chidah. It's the same exact question as basar nechira. I already had this meat when it was allowed. Now a newsman comes where you're not allowed to have it. Says the Chidah, according to the Rambam and the Rif, teku derabanan is lekula. The meat on the 9 days, is it from the Torah? No, rabbinic. It should be lekula. And so the teku will be lekula. And so if you have leftovers on the 9 days, hey, we missed you. He has a question already. You've been here the whole time? It's great. What do you got, Ita? Yeah, we just talked about this. We just read it. You got to catch him up after with all this stuff, okay? Says the Chidah, we have a proof from this case that leftovers on the 9 days is allowed to be eaten. I'll tell you in a second. The Rambam, if you read the Rambam in Ta'anit, the laws of Tisha B'Av, Rambam says, Asur le'echol basar on the 9 days. Where does Rambam write? What does the Mishnah write? Where does this law come from? There's a Mishnah in Ta'anit that says, we don't have meat. Finish the sentence. No, that's not the Mishnah. There's a Mishnah. Yossi, the source of this whole meat thing. It's a Mishnah. It's a Gemara Ta'anit. The Gemara says, we don't eat meat. When? No. That's not what it says. What? No, that's not what it says. In the Seudah Mafseket. And the final meal before Tisha B'Av, don't have meat. The Temanim followed this letter of the law, even against the Temanim until they got into Israel. They had meat the whole 9 days. Ela Tisha B'Av. In the Seudah Mafseket, no meat. Before that, meat. The Rambam writes, you cannot have meat in the Seudah Mafseket, and it's a minhag to extend it out from Rosh Chodesh Av. It's a minhag, says the Hidah. It's not even a Drabanan. It's less than a Drabanan. It's a minhag. And so for sure it should be allowed leftovers because it's a teku, the Drabanan, and a minhag, the kula. I'm going to wrap it up 2 minutes. I know you have to go. There's a rabbi named Rabbi Yedidya Mansanego. He's from Fez, Morocco. He says, no. When it comes to nehira, it was never forbidden, nehira, in the desert. Something was completely allowed. And now Hashem said, from now on, nehira is not allowed. But when it comes to the meat, how could you have the leftovers on the meat? Because let's say on Shabbat, tomorrow, 2 days from now, you have meat. It's not allowed today. It's not allowed tomorrow. It's allowed on Shabbat. It's not something that was always allowed. It was not allowed. It is allowed. You can't. It's not the same thing as nehira. According to this, if he's right, there will be a difference between Shabbat Hazon, which is this Shabbat's leftovers, and less Shabbat's leftovers, or Rosh Chodesh's leftovers. Less Shabbat's leftovers were never forbidden the whole year. It's not on, off, on. And so according to that, says the Kol Eliyahu, fine, according to you, leftovers from last Shabbat, or leftovers from Rosh Chodesh meal, you can have no problem the whole week. But leftovers from Shabbat Hazon, maybe you shouldn't have, maybe.
I think they're extrapolating halakha.
Why?
Because
the Rosh says, what is the purpose of this question?
But they don't know.
Let me tell you the last 3 things and we'll wrap it up. The Tosafot and Menachot gives one more example. There's a lot of examples they bring. He says, what is the only question? There are 2 times that Kilayim Sha'anez is allowed. Do you know these 2 times? No, not the king, the Kohen. The Kohen, Gadol, or maybe the Hediot, we don't know. The second time? The first one, I know you would get. The second one? The Chelat of Sisit, is that what you meant? Excellent, David. Sisit overrides Sha'anez. As Aseh, always be to lo ta'aseh. Hashem says, Gidilin ta'aseh lecha. You should have sisit. I want to have a linen garment with wool strings, or a wool garment with linen strings. You tell me you know Sha'anez? Why? I have Aseh to wear sisit, and the lo ta'aseh not to wear Sha'anez. The Aseh be lo ta'aseh. Already now the minhag is not to do this, but the halakha. That's the, yeah, we're talking now kila ebeged. And so the Tosafot in Menachot writes, unbelievable Tosafot. When is this man for CC? Nighttime, daytime? Daytime. Says Tosafot, it seems to him, if you have the CC in the daytime, you can even wear them in the nighttime, even if the Sha'an is. Because since it's allowed, it's allowed. Once something is allowed, it's allowed. Almost like a leftovers. I started wearing this when it was allowed. Don't tell me now that I have to take it off. Same thing. I started eating this meat when it was allowed. Don't tell me I can't eat the meat now anymore. The Yad Eliyahu brings another case. There's a halakha that you're not supposed to eat from the wife's wine when she's nida. If a woman's nida, a man and a woman are married and the woman's nida, they can't share their food. They have to eat separately. Can't eat from the same plate. The wine is the real thing. According to the Ramah, it's anything, but not really according to Shulchan Aruch. That's why I said wine. According to the Ramah, Adam says, according to the Ramah, it's all food. And that's really the custom. Is not even regular food from the wife when she's nida, not to eat, but it's not asur for Sfaradim. It's a good thing to do. If the woman's left the room, if the wife left the room, and I want to eat her food, why can't you eat it when she's nida? Because when you eat her food, you show her how much you love her. Oh, you leave me eat my food? Oh, you love me so much. You look at the cooties from me, it brings chiba. If she leaves the room, you're allowed to do it. Because she's not here. There's no one's looking. If she comes back, Adam, did I write it? No, I didn't write it. Good. What if she comes back? I started it aloud. Hey, you left the room. I was eating your leftovers. I had to stop just because you came back. Basad nehira. It's like the beef jerky. Says the Yad Eliyahu, it should be the same halacha. It's allowed. Says the Chacham Ovadia on Tarat Habayit, if she comes back in the room, you may continue to drink her drink because you started it when it was allowed. And so halacha l'ma'aseh is once you start something when it's allowed, hoyel be'ishtari ishtari. Once you start something when it's allowed, you could finish when it's allowed. Rav Itzur Zalman Meltzer argues, and he says no. When it comes to basad nehira, when it comes to klayim, when it comes to these things, there's an isur on the thing. The meat itself was allowed, and now the meat itself is not allowed. When it comes to the 9 days, Israel Solomon says, the meat is still kosher. It's the zman that's not allowed. It's avilut. It has nothing to do with basad nehira. Israel Solomon argues, and he said leftovers, not allowed. Magen Avraham will say leftovers, you shouldn't have. However, the Chidah holds, we prove from this gemara, basad nehira, like the beef jerky that you brought from in the midbar, the leftovers is allowed, whether it's Shabbat Hazon leftovers, whether it's Rosh Chodesh leftovers. Why? Because I started eating this meat when it was kosher. Don't tell me it's not kosher anymore. Halacha l'ma'aseh, leftovers on the 9 days is allowed to be eaten, even if it is meat. It's very praiseworthy if you want to have it su'udah bi'it to do that. But if people ask me halakha questions, I have to give them the halakha. The halakha l'ma'aseh, like the Chidah says, leftover meat is allowed. And if someone asks you why, now you have a good answer. Because I started this meat when it was kosher, and so you can't take it away.
So if you may have started eating it on Shabbat, but now you have someone who came to your table on Sunday, he wasn't eating it.
That's a great question. I don't know the answer. My wife asked me the same question this week. You hear his question? Adam has a great question. I don't know the answer. Yaniv, you hear his question? My wife asked me the same thing. Can I eat your leftovers on the 9 days? I don't know the answer. I don't know. One of my kids had a friend over yesterday. I said, give the kid leftover chicken. He said, it was our leftovers. I don't know the answer. What do you say? I don't know. But anyway. You have minyan?
I would say no. I would give it to him exactly.
Yeah, the question is, I started the heter. רבי חנניה אומר, ועשה הקדוש ברוך הוא לזכות את ישראל לפיך כתבה להם כל מסוים שנאמר, אדוני חפש למען צדקו יגדיל תורה וידיד.